Welcome to the Growth Plus Exit podcast, where owners of privately held middle market companies talk about founding, scaling, and exiting their businesses successfully. Learn how to maximize and monetize your business on your own terms. Let's get started.
Hello, I'm Heather Bennett, your host today for the Growth Plus Exit podcast. This is the podcast featuring middle market owners and experts talking about founding, scaling, and exiting businesses successfully. I have a very exciting and special guest today. So before I introduce her, this episode is brought to you by Newport LLC, a team of seasoned C-suite executives who help CEOs of privately held companies grow, de-risk, and exit their businesses successfully. To work with us, visit newportllc.com. Visit our website or find us on LinkedIn to learn more and to contact us. And before introducing today's guest, I want to give a big thank you to Rob Steppen of Insperity for introducing us at one of his events. To check out Rob's website, go to insperity.com. Insperity specializes in human resources. So our guest today, Allison Cummins, has established herself as one of Chicago's finest super connectors, and I can attest to that because she has connected me with some really outstanding individuals. She's a thoughtful and conscientious leader who's laser focused on empowering others. She's also a seasoned project manager and a Scrum Master certified advisor who excels in completing ERP implementation for medium-sized to large companies. She's also an expert on the 6 types of working genius, and I'm guessing we'll talk a little bit about that later. I'm so delighted to have you on, Allison. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So, Allison, tell me a little bit about how you started Blue Outcomes and why. What's the story behind that?
Sure. So I started Blue Outcomes a little over 6 years ago. We just celebrated our 6-year anniversary in November. So very excited about that. I have been a project manager for, at the time, 15 years. And I had this idea of like, I'm just going to go independent. I'm going to, take projects and work with who I want to work with. And I really wanted control over the why. But when I reached out to my past clients, they were like, oh, well, yeah, we want to work with you, but we need more of you. Do you know anybody else who can help us lead these projects? You know us, we trust you, who can you introduce us to? And I started thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? I can totally do that. So after about a couple months of being an independent, I'm like, okay, well, let's start a business. Because, there are other independents who were like me. They wanted control over who they worked with and why, but they also wanted to have that collaboration, that feel of a traditional consulting company where you have the support of others. And that's really what Blue Outcomes is, we act like a traditional consulting company, but at the same time, we are a collective of independents who now have control over, when we work with somebody, because we want to feel the passion for a project. We want to really make a difference, and that's important to us. And so when we started Blue Outcomes, that was the basis of it, is, having a group of really experienced project and change managers who's going to make a difference in our clients' business, but also we have the opportunity to work and collaborate with each other.
Okay, so many questions. With the current gig economy status and the way we can all work remotely, how do you think business owners can apply that level of agility based on your experience? Because it sounds like you've found a model that works for you. So what are some of the things they need to be thinking about to have that level of agility and be successful with it?
I think it really comes down to knowing your team and knowing, what you mentioned earlier, like your geniuses. Where are the geniuses at on your team, and how can you tap into them in a way that's going to be meaningful? And that's not just with your internal team, but it's with your vendors and your contractors. Now that we're in this remote world or this hybrid world, we don't we're not limited to just a region or geographical location. We can go out and truly find the right talent that's going to grow and scale your business and allow people to be truly innovative in what it is that they're doing. And I think having a team that really taps into, every aspect of the working genius model is really going to provide a different level of growth and allow companies to expand very quickly and rapidly, because at the end of the day, a self-aware leader is a good leader, and how we can show up and tap into each other's geniuses, I think that will allow for more creativity and scaling.
Absolutely. Okay, so speaking of scaling, um, like you said, you started as a single person, and what is different about scaling at that early phase versus maybe scaling and growing now in terms of choosing talent and who you're going to work with?
Yeah, so for me, in those early stages, it was recognizing that you can't do all the things by yourself, and nor should you. Really understand and have honest conversations with yourself about what it is that you can truly accomplish. As a project manager, I love making lists. I love creating process in the beginning, because at the end of the day, I think that's what's really going to help accelerate growth when you're ready. Lay a strong foundation. And so my world in the first year of Blue Outcomes consisted of, laying a strong foundation, finding, starting to reach out to people who I knew I wanted to work with again and, eventually have on my team. I had a lot of Trello boards. If you're not familiar with Trello, it's a project management tool that will help you keep track of all of your big ideas and where you're at with the execution of it. So laying a strong foundation, starting to create standard operating procedures. And then when you are ready to take your business to the next level, you have it in place. You have a foundation to grow from. Now that my team has expanded, we have 7 internal consultants. That's part of my core team. And then I have, a bench of 15 to 20 consultants that I work with on a regular basis. So, but it was a lot of prep work leading up to it. And let's be honest, that prep work never stops. Like, we've been around coming close to 7 years, and every day I'm talking to my operations manager about, like, all right, how are we doing? What standard operating procedure do we need to create? How can we build upon this? We're constantly changing. And I think that's the key to continuing to be innovative, is just constantly, document. There's no such thing as too much documentation. There's no such thing as too much process. I mean, I guess there is, but like you don't want to have process just for process sake, but make it meaningful and be intentional about it. And one of the things that I counsel all of my clients on is, even the small startups, even the mid-market, we all should be growing our business to exit our business. You don't have to ever exit your business. You never have to sell. But if you grow your business and set the foundation like you are going to, that will set you up for success in the long run.
Okay. So we'll talk about exit later, but I want to go back to your clients and what that development looks like, because you're developing your team. And I love that you differentiated between early scaling, continuous scaling, and like current scaling in terms of your human resources and your talents. What does the business development look like early on and maybe ongoing for you?
For me, I have been very fortunate to have grown my business 100% through referrals. It's people that I've worked with in the past. It's amazing folks that I network with who have introduced me to people. So when it comes to that business development, I am very much a relationship creature. So I do believe in that know, like, trust mentality, the go giver. It is actually part of our core missions at Blue Outcomes is, we have 5 core values, and one of them is to be a go giver, and not just for networking, but for, my clients. So when I work with a client, it really is like, how are they going to be successful? What is it that I can do to facilitate the success? And maybe it doesn't mean that it's Blue Outcomes. Maybe it's somebody else, or maybe they need um, another complementary business. It doesn't matter to me. My sole goal is their success. And I think that's one of the things that service providers sometimes forget. It's not about us, it's about the client's success, and keeping that in the forefront of, like, that is your primary goal. I think in the end, that's what makes us all succeed.
And I love that you tied in the fact, because it's easy to say I only get my work through referrals, but you tied it into the idea that those referrals are strong because you take the time to let them be aware of their target market. I find when I work with entrepreneurs or business owners, that's one of the first areas we tackle, is just an awareness of who really needs your products or services and why. And then we'll deal with everything else after that, because sometimes having a lack of awareness about that is what's preventing them from doing that initial growth and scaling, which is good to know. Excellent. Okay. And then, all right, you mentioned your core missions for Blue Outcomes. And you'd said there are 5. So what's one other one that you think is important to highlight for business owners?
There's our core values are so, like, important. It's hard to pick one. Our first one, let's go with the first one, is lead with empathy. Like, we lead with, their success in mind. And again, it's not about us, it's about their success. So we lead, and our goal is to understand what their goals are. So it's not just about this one little project that we're working on. It's about, what is the impact to your business? How is this going to transform your business? And it is our responsibility to dig into that, to see, maybe we hadn't thought about or considered this impact over here. Well, it's worth spending a little bit of time and investigating it. And part of that is not just to, be prepared, but maybe there's somebody in my network that can help solve that very quickly, or maybe we need to put that on a roadmap for later, for future, for another look at. So I would say lead with empathy, and then quickly followed by be transparent. Everything that we do is through transparency and accountability. And I do believe that that's why, Blue Outcomes has been successful, is sometimes we tell our clients the hard truths. And, it's not, no executive leadership teams who are investing in a transformation in their organization, they need to know that it's, the project health. They need to know, is this on time? Are we having resource constraints? Are we missing deadlines? And if they don't, then that's a bigger problem, because how can you truly mitigate? How can you truly control your scope? So at the end of the day, it's being transparent, being accountable, and doing what you say you're going to do.
I love that. I love that. And so I'm going to move to a completely different area, because you've done such a great job of talking about the importance of human capital, talent, empathy, the relationships with your clients. Let's move to the other end of the spectrum in terms of technology right now. There are a lot of tools, technology out there. AI is obviously very hot on everyone's mind at the moment, and will continue to be as one of those technology tools to move us forward. what do you think is the most important thing for middle market companies to consider when they're thinking about which tools, which technology to bring into their businesses to make them run better?
So I would
This is
say,
not a question I would ask anyone, but I'm like, she's got the expertise, so we're going to go there.
yeah, I would say don't be afraid to embrace something that's different. Everyone talks about AI and there's a lot of fear around it. And I would say it's not just about the generative AI. There's AI could be a lot of things. And don't be afraid to embrace something that's different, especially if it can grow and scale your business in a different way. Because right now, with the world, the economy, we have to be as streamlined and efficient as possible, and leveraging the tools that will help enable that streamlining and efficiency. I think that's where like we're headed. The companies who embrace that idea are the ones who are going to be very successful and be able to navigate the uncertainties that are happening in the world.
Yeah, and I honestly don't think that that's going to change. I
No,
think
it's
looking
here.
at technology as a tool to move us forward and be more
100%.
efficient, I really believe, it's like Moore's law. Like we're only going to be moving faster and expected to keep up. So the more efficient you can be, and you talked about that continuous improvement early on and having that continuous mindset of innovation. I really believe that technology is one of those areas where you really should continually be thinking about how to do it better, how to
Yeah,
do it more efficient.
absolutely. And it really comes down to finding the right tool that's going to work for you. It's just like I'm going to use a CRM system as an example. Not all CRM systems are going to work for your business. It really comes down to, your teams, how your businesses are set up, and really take the time to do an assessment before you just jump in. And that does happen for us. We get called in on a project that it's starting to fail because they selected the wrong tool for their business, the wrong tool to implement. It happens. And it's how quickly can you identify what's going wrong? Is it salvageable? Or maybe it's time to, you know, cut your losses and pivot to something else. Just don't be afraid of the change, and don't be afraid of recognizing and adjusting as needed.
I like that. I like that. Okay, so is there an example you can give? You can anonymize the names if that makes it easier, but an example of a time you worked with a client that it didn't go well and you had to maybe do some out of the box thinking to help them through it.
I was once working on a large ERP implementation, and it was an SAP implementation. So
Okay.
we had people. I can't even tell you how big this team was. It was massive. So we had started implementing SAP. This is many years ago. So we got a year into the implementation. Company had already spent couple $1 million and decided, you know what, this isn't working for us. We got pulled in by the bells and whistles of SAP. We thought this was the right direction, but it wasn't. And they ended up scrapping it and going to JD Edwards, and they implemented it very successfully. Was it costly? Yes. But the alternative was to basically fit a square peg in a round hole. It just wasn't working for the business. And the quicker that they realized it, as soon as they realized it, we were able to pivot. But that was hey, we didn't really understand our needs before we did this. And so one of the things, when I love getting brought into projects at the very beginning when they still haven't made their decision on
Yes.
what tool to use. It doesn't happen very often, but man, I do love it, because now we can really understand how the business functions. And I tell companies, before you get there, if you know you want to do a new technology implementation, spend a couple weeks. It doesn't have to be long. Spend a couple weeks and document your business processes. Create some standard operating procedures. So now you can have a better idea of where your handoffs are, what your processes look like, and that will help you identify and go through the technology assessment.
That's great. You answered like 3 questions I was going to ask you, so thank you. What are the red flags when things are not going well? When a business, we'll say a project is not going well, or something needs to change or pivot very much.
If there's no clear timeline, no clear project plan, no identifiable milestones, that would be a huge red flag.
Okay.
If the executive leadership doesn't know what the budget is, or how there's no change control process, a change control process hasn't been established early on, who the decision makers are to approve those changes, because at the end of the day, anytime you change a core functionality, that's time and money. It's either development time, timeline time, like your timeline gets pushed out, something, and that has to be a discussion. It can't just be arbitrarily made by a system implementation team. Just can't.
Okay.
So I would say red flags are if you don't have a timeline, if you're missing milestones, or if you're having challenges with your data, if the data hasn't been looked at and you're halfway through the project, I would be concerned. I would be extremely concerned. Or if your employees have no idea that this transformation is happening and it's going to be impacting them in 4 months, I would be concerned.
Okay. For the benefit of our audience, can you give a definition or layman's terms of what a change control process is?
Sure. So when you are creating a new system, and let's say the accounting team is expecting to be able to upload a spreadsheet to your system and manipulate that data. But the process is it has to be hand keyed. That's the way the system is designed. There has to be some development that takes place in order for that file to be uploaded. Now, if that development is going to take, there's going to be a cost to it. It's going to take some additional time to develop. It's going to take a cost. And you can't just, the developers can't just say, all right, well, I'm going to create this functionality because that's what the accounting team wants. Sometimes you don't always get what you want. Sometimes that is it's a nice to have, but it's not a need. Or maybe we need to put that on the backlog for later for an enhancement. But for right now, in order to control the cost of the initial implementation, that is a feature that has to wait. So a change control process would scope out the effort, the costs to implement that, and then a review board of decision makers to say, all right, is this required? Can it wait? Where do we put it in the whole grand scheme of the project?
I love that. And tying it back, of course, to the budget always makes me happy. I'm very much one of those bottom line people who's like monitoring constantly. And the accountability and the measurements and those milestones. I mean, that's all such, it seems like such basic stuff for project management, but sometimes in the moment when you're working on and you're getting things done, it's very easy to forget those really solid steps that need to happen for a project to be successful. So thank you for pointing those out. That was great.
And I would just say, like, if you're not getting as stakeholders, like if you're not receiving weekly status updates on the project health, I would be concerned. Actually, and I know that we're kind of past this, but I do want to mention this because this is a great example of the lack of transparency for some teams. I was working on a large multi-year, it's like 4-year implementation. Year 3, I get brought in of a 4-year implementation. And the reason I got brought in the implementation team just stopped talking about the budget. They just stopped talking about, how they were doing, how the miles, like they just stopped reporting, providing status reports. And so when they started, the leadership team started asking questions, they had to bring me in. I ended up finding a $20 million overage because all of those missed milestones, they weren't even halfway done with the project, and they're in year 3 because they missed all the milestone. They missed every milestone. The scope kept, expanding because there was no change control process. And so we ended up being $20 million over budget. You don't recover that.
No.
You don't recover, but you can you can stop the bleed, but you can't. You're now $20 million over budget, just gone.
Yeah, no, that's a very good example. So can you give me an example of a time you were really proud of your team for something that they were able to accomplish?
Oh, every day. Every day. I have an amazing team. So, let's see, what is a good one? All right. So we have a company who is going through a divestiture at the moment. And so there was a need to split the current ERP solution from its its parent company. But the parent company was running an extremely old version of SAP. I'm talking like I used it when I started my career in the early, 2000s, so 2002, 2003, and it hadn't been maintained. It was highly customized, and we got brought in the timeline. When I say aggressive, it was aggressive. So we got brought in April, and the timeline for go live was November. Not only did we have to spin it off, but we also had an upgrade because, the system was no longer supported. So we ended up, it was delayed a little, like a month, but, that's still amazing. But really what it came down to is extremely hard work from a lot of teams. So not just Blue Outcomes team, but, the developers, the architect, like all of them, they were amazing. But it really came down to the project management and the accountability to make this happen. And along with our change management team, we had 4 consultants working on there. Now we have 6 for stability. But it really came down to how we worked collaboratively, how we maintained the transparency and accountability throughout the whole thing. And whenever there was an issue that arose, it was like, all right, how do we mitigate it? What is our plan, our path to green? What is, it was a quick assessment of like, do we need more resources? Do we need more people? Like, what is it? And, it was a lot of hard work in just a few months, but it went live. It was successful. They're doing amazing now, running like with their own upgraded SAP system. So it's been amazing.
That's a great story. I love hearing about those, especially when you're given a historic system and told to make it work. So very encouraging. Very cool. Tell me about some of your mentors and their best advice that they've given you in the process of building your company.
I have been very fortunate to have amazing mentors throughout my entire career. From my very first, like when I first started being a professional, like right out of college, I had some amazing mentors who I still talk to today. We still do, holiday parties together, which is amazing. Not very many people can say that over 24 years, they're still a part of your life. But so that's been great. One of the mentor that has made the biggest impact to my life, though, I would say his name is Jim. He was the owner of a boutique consulting firm, and he's the one who realized my potential to be a project manager. And he embraced the fact that he counseled me. He was like, "You're really good with people, not so great at development." Because I should mention, I used to be a computer science major, so I was a coder. It wasn't really my thing, but I was capable. But he was like, "You're really good at this, and you can speak to the business, you can talk to the tech team. You should consider project management. You should consider, bridging that gap and being that person for us to keep us organized." And I really took that to heart. And I'm just like, okay, I want to do that. I want to be a project manager. And I've been doing it ever since. And so it was really his guidance and just his willingness to sit with me regularly and nurture me. It's made a huge impact on my life. And I don't know that I would be here without him.
What a great story. Love hearing that. Excellent. Excellent. Wonderful. Okay, so I have one last question, but before I ask it, I wanted to point people to your www. So www.blueoutcomes.com, right? So
Blueoutcomes.com.
okay, and when is a good, like, who would be a good business owner to reach out to you for the solutions that Blue Outcomes provides?
The intentional growth leader. So that innovative leader who is looking to accelerate their business in some way. That's who I'd love to talk with them just to hear what their goals are. And maybe they don't know what their goal, like maybe they don't know. Maybe they're saying like, "Hey, I want to grow, but I don't know how." Well, let's talk. Let's talk about that. Because there are things that we can do to get you started. Just let's start looking at your processes. Where can
I
we
love that.
streamline?
Okay, blueoutcomes.com. That's easy to remember. So final question. What is a hard lesson you learned while starting and growing your business, that you think will help other founders and CEOs?
I would say you can't do it by yourself. Find your team, find your people, find your mentors. Because at the end of the day, we entrepreneurs, we take on a lot. We have to wear so many different hats, and really understanding what it is that you're good at, what you should be putting your time and energy into, and then finding the support and the team that will help, build the rest of it. Being aware, because again, we can't do it all, and we have to give ourselves grace to make sure like we don't burn ourselves out, because entrepreneurs, we don't have we don't take breaks. We don't take the breaks that we should be taking, and we have to stop. Find your team.
Excellent. And I know we mentioned it earlier. I think one of what I've found to be helpful, that I learned through you, was the 6 types of working genius. So how do you apply that when you're looking for your team?
So when I find my team, it's like I know my genius is enablement and discernment. And I have a frustration. And if you're ever interested in the 6 types of working genius, I am a certified facilitator. Would love to have a conversation with anybody who's interested. But I know that I lack the wonder and invention of the 6 types of working genius. So when I look for a team, I look for the geniuses that I don't have, or it's just a competency for me. So, because I want to make sure that every genius is represented on my team. And I do that because we all need help. And there are sometimes I have to tap into them. I often ask my executive assistant, she has high tenacity. I'm like, "Hey, can you help me with this? I need to borrow your tenacity for just a second." Or my operations manager, she has the gift of invention. And so there are so many times I tap on her shoulder. I'm like, "Hey, can I just borrow your invention for like 5 minutes? Let me give you the scenario. Let's talk through it. I need you to invent for a second. And finding your team who you can tap into those geniuses, it will make a huge difference.
That's great. The idea of looking for those complementary competencies and skills to the ones you have to build a team that's really robust and can get things done. I love hearing that. Awesome. So, Allison, it's been an absolute pleasure, as I knew it would be, learning more about you and your business and how you've grown your business. Thank you so much for sharing. So we've been talking to Allison Cummins, founder and CEO of Blue Outcomes, an information technology consulting firm that specializes in outsourced project management and IT solutions for business growth. I would think from our conversation, you've learned a lot about why Blue Outcomes is so successful and why Allison's clients really enjoy working with her today. Thank you so much, Allison, and we'll be talking
Heather.
soon.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Growth Plus Exit podcast, sponsored by Newport, a unique national business advisory firm. If you enjoyed this show, be sure to share, like, and subscribe for future episodes.